A good friend of mine is a caterer up in Minneapolis. And when he came down to the South, I made this recipe for him that I'm going to share with you today. He absolutely fell in love with it, took it home, and now it's up north as one of the most requested dishes that he has when he prepares a dessert with his catering company. And I'm going to share that recipe with you today. Welcome to All Things Food with John Woods. I love to cook, but I cook to love. So let's talk food. I wish I could take credit for this recipe, but it really came from a very good friend of mine, one of the best chefs I've ever known, down in St. Francisville, Louisiana. Chef Phillip Plaisance from the Oxbow restaurant. Probably the greatest meals I've ever had in my life were right there in his restaurant. And Phillip wrote this nice little book, The Oxbow. I don't know if you can even get this anymore, but it has all of his wonderful recipes. And I happened to steal one of them, his New Orleans peach bread pudding with whiskey sauce. And I want to share that recipe with you today. It's so simple. I guarantee that you'll cook this time and time again in the years ahead. So let's look at some of the components. We have egg. We're going to use 4 eggs, whisk. We're going to use heavy cream. The recipe actually calls for milk. I'm going to use heavy cream. I just want a little richer recipe today. Sugar, 2 cups of sugar, 32 ounces of chopped peaches, French toast, French bread, vanilla extract, and some butter. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the French bread, we're going to cut it in half with a serrated knife, and then we're going to turn it over with the harder side up. And you don't want this to be too small, so 1-inch squares are just the perfect size. And we're going to take this, put it on a sheet pan, stick it in the oven and toast it on 350 degrees for maybe 5 minutes. Each oven varies a little bit, so you're going to have to watch your oven. You just want to toast this so it's nice and crunchy, almost like not quite as heavily toasted as a crouton, but you'll get the idea of just like a good piece of toast. So let's go put it in the oven, 350 degrees, probably about 5 minutes. So we've toasted our French bread. We're going to put it in a mixing bowl, and we're going to put 4 cups of either milk or heavy cream on it and let it soak for probably 5 or 6 minutes. And while it's soaking, we're going to go ahead and prepare the rest of our ingredients. We're going to use 4 eggs. Whisk those together a little bit. And add in 2 cups of sugar. Stir all that together. A little bit of vanilla extract, probably about 1/4 of a teaspoon, maybe half at the most. I'm going to just use the cap to do my measuring. Try not to pour the whole bottle in there. Let's go 2 caps. You can always add more if you want to. And some people will put almond extract in it. We're going to skip on that today. Whisk all that together. And we're going to set that aside for just a few moments. And we're going to put all the cream, the 4 cups of cream or milk in here and mix it all together real good. And when that bread comes out of the oven, the toasted bread, we're going to pour this on the toasted bread and let it soak for just a few minutes, maybe 3 or 4 minutes. So everything's ready here. And we'll just wait on the toast. So I'm going to put my bread in this other mixing bowl here. Be very careful because that sheet pan is a little hot. Then I'm going to take my mixture and I'm going to pour it right over the bread. It really smells good with that vanilla extract in there. Stir it around just a little bit. And let's let it soak up those flavors for just a few minutes. Make sure everything gets saturated. All right, we've let our bread soak a little bit in the mixture, and there are a couple ways we can do this. If I'm making this for hundreds of people, which I've done in the past, I'll mix everything together and pour it into a pan and bake it. Now I'm taking this home. That's the reason I have this aluminum pan, to get a few brownie points at home because they love this. May share it with some of my neighbors if they've been good this week. So here's the way we're going to do it. We're going to take a cup because we want some of those juices in here. And half of this mixture we're going to pour in the bottom of this pan. And we're going to reserve the other half for just a minute or two. And then I'm going to take my peaches over here, and I'm going to layer those peaches right in here like so. Then I'm going to take some butter, lay across that, like so, maybe 4 or 5. Then I'm going to come back in with the rest of the mixture, like so. Get all that in there. Spread it out. We're just creating layers here. The rest of the peaches go on top. Kind of push them down a little bit, not much. And then a little more butter. Everything's happier with butter. Right on top, 3 or 4 pats of butter. And then this is going to go in an oven at 350 degrees. Probably going to take, in my oven, 35-40 minutes. It may take longer in your oven, but we're going to go stick that in there and let it go, and we'll come back and make the sauce that goes on top of it. All right, this is the good part about this recipe, the whiskey sauce. And so we're going to get our burner going there, kind of on a medium-low, say kind of a medium-low heat, I guess. And we're going to throw our butter in and get it melted. And I always keep butter on standby just in case I need a little more. I burned this too many times by going to get butter when I should have had it already here. We use a wooden spoon, get that butter melted just a tad. Right here I have about a cup of brown sugar and probably about 4 tablespoons of butter. So that's partially melted. I'm going to go ahead and put the brown sugar in. I'm going to keep it, it's kind of like a roux. If you're not careful, it'll get away from you. So we have everything ready. And we're just going to kind of get all that dissolved really, really good. And then I'm going to add a little bit of heavy cream. Get all that dissolved so I don't have to worry about burning it too much at this point. If I feel like I need to, I can add more sugar. I'm not going to add any more butter though. So I kind of probably got a little too much cream in there. It's a little lighter color than I want. So I'm going to add just a little bit more brown sugar. So we have that all on standby here. Darken it up just a tad. It's not going to hurt it at all. So that came to a boil rather quickly. I'm going to go ahead and add my whiskey in there. And this is going to make it really, really happy, as Emerald says. And we're going to let that cook down for maybe 5 or 10 minutes. Now this is the part that I like most of all, tasting the whiskey sauce. Right now it's a little thinner than we want it to be, so we're going to thicken this up. We're not going to use a roux, obviously, for this, so we're going to thicken it up with cornstarch. Follow the manufacturer's instructions on the box. We're not going to need a lot. And the thing about cornstarch is such a great thickening agent. It adds no flavor. It doesn't affect the taste in one way or the other, positive or negative. Very neutral. Always have it on hand. Learn how to use it. We don't want to put too much in. And you always add it to something hot. Never add cornstarch to a cold mixture. Really good flavor. Probably could actually use a little more brandy in it. Whatever we're using, rum or whatever we decide to use, just for a little stronger taste, but we're going to go with this today. So I have my cornstarch over here. It's all stirred up, ready to go. Stir it one more time to make certain it hasn't settled any. And I'm going to just add a little bit and see what that does. It should thicken it up. I'm going to turn the heat up just a smidgen. Oh, that's looking really good right there. Right exactly the way we want it. I think I'm fine with that actually. So I'm going to turn my heat off. Now I'm going to show you a little trick with this. Anything sweet, especially a sauce like this. I have a good friend over here that I like to use, kosher salt. I never use table salt for cooking, and I'll have a video on that and tell you why. But I always have kosher salt handy. And this is that sweet sauce, and by putting a little pinch or two of salt in this, it's unbelievable how this salt will actually kick up the flavor of the sauce. I mean, it's such a huge difference. You'll be amazed when you do this. So that is so creamy and velvety looking, I'll tell you, it's really turned out nice. So I'm gonna do another, we taste everything time and time again. So we're gonna do another little taste test and see what happened with the salt there. I think I could use a little more salt, maybe another pinch or two. Just a little more salt really elevated the flavor of this up just tremendously. So we're good. Take it off, we're gonna get it off the heat there. All we're waiting for now is for our peach bread pudding to come out of the oven, and when it comes out, I'm gonna poke a few little holes down in it. We're gonna pour this, smother it with this sauce, and man, oh man, you're gonna talk about a great, great dessert. So I pulled our peach bread pudding out of the oven, and you can see it's really, really hot. It was bubbling around the edges, and the way I check it, I just press on it here. It's really firm in the middle. So I'm pretty confident once I leave it out for a couple, 5 or 10 minutes, it'll be perfectly fine and ready to serve. So we're gonna set this aside, then we're gonna put the sauce on it, and then we're gonna enjoy Chef Phillip Plaisance New Orleans peach bread pudding. And here we have the final product. It just came out of the oven, nice, piping hot. I let it rest for probably 15, 20 minutes. And that's our peach bread pudding. And so we're ready to plate it up. I have a little bowl here, and I'm gonna take a big ice cream scoop and reach down to the very bottom of the pan. Put me a nice big scoop in here. I like a lot of this stuff. And then we have our sauce, our whiskey sauce, and we're gonna take a little bit of that and drizzle right over the top of it. And oh boy, that smells so good. And the flavors are gonna be so great. New Orleans peach bread pudding with whiskey sauce. So I've been waiting for well over an hour to taste this dish today. It's got a lot of whiskey in it, but it's 5 o'clock somewhere, so let's give it a try. Oh my, so good. I may need a designated driver to get home today. It is so good. I'm gonna eat this entire pan of peach bread pudding with all that sauce. It'll never make it to my house. Thank you for joining All Things Food. And I'm John Woods, and I really love to cook, and I know you're gonna love cooking this recipe. Be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe, and I'll see you the next time on 50 Ways to Love a Dessert.